bipartisan support. And they had Democratic supporters for the bill. And the Salary Commission had a really good presentation to do, you know? And they wouldn't even let them do the presentation because there were no Republicans that wanted to say, I'm willing to carry a bill that increases the salaries of elected officials. What is unclear, though, and really is a matter of opinion, is the President of the Senate, this is all occurring at the same time that the county sheriffs of Colorado came out with a position paper, you know, and it was starting to threaten or you know, potentially threaten the passage of gun laws. And so the allegation is, and we were all kind of thinking it, Terry Makita of El Paso County said it, is that there's this belief that the President of the Senate was punishing the sheriffs in the Salary Commission bill because of their stance on guns and not taking anybody, you know, letting the commission be carried by just Democrats. And so that's really how that allegation started. There's no proof of it. Even Terry Makita has said that, you know, but it is awful suspicious that there have been other bills that come forward that don't need bipartisan support to get heard even, you know. And so that's why it happens. Here's the more important point of this that I think is, you know, goes to your question, can you raise more money and all that kind of stuff. You all, I believe, understand and believe the importance of the office of sheriff, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Here's what's happened. Because the Salary Commission and the state legislature is taking no action on this several terms in a row, your local electeds are staying at the same, including the sheriff. Now, if you take my salary and measure it against the local chiefs of police, against the probation chief, against the judges, against the people that run work release and community corrections, against basically all my peers that are in a leadership position in the criminal justice system, I'm the lowest. I'm at the very bottom of all of them.
What is your salary?
It's $87,000. I'm not complaining about it, but because I've earned a living at it and I love what I do. But here's what I worry about, is that when you have chiefs making 110, 105, a DA 110, you know, a probation chief that's making 98 or 99 or 100, it's only supervising 30 people, there's a lot of disparity, all right? So here's what I worry about, is that we start to create a gap that grows and grows and grows between professional lawmen and chiefs and sheriffs, and pretty quick, I have people in my agency, most of my command staff make more money than me. And the good people that you want, sometimes are going to say, God, I don't want to run for that job. I'd have to take a $10,000 pay cut, you know? Now, I think there will always be good people that want to run for sheriff. That's my altruistic belief. But what worries me is that we get into a position where some good people, they may be good people, but they're not professional lawmen. And the part that scares me a little bit is there's a whole other part of the sheriff's office that we don't ever talk about, with running a day-to-day operation and managing offenders and running a jail and these things that take professional lawmen, that we will start to create this gap about the professionalism of the office of sheriff. And that worries me. So can you add money to that? No, I don't think so.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ability of the government of this state to withhold paying you money because you will not enforce their unlawful legislation.
You can't pre-prove it.
But
Is any part of your salary dependent on the federal government?
No.
That's what she's trying to ask.
no, the state government. I'm not worried about the
It's
federal.
not, and it's not dependent on the state other than they said it. But the county pays it. It's county dollars. Yeah.
Well, we should be able to set it too. Come on now.
Well, if you're a county commissioner, you say, well, no, I'm not going to give you any more money, sheriff. It's set in state law.
I give you more money.
Yeah.
I think your position's way an extremely difficult one that requires extreme professionalism, and I think the majority here would agree with me that it is a difficult position that deserves a good salary.
And
I think the other ones need to get this down to the sheriff.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
this guy's had his hand up forever. You've been patient.
I'm probably going to bring up something you don't want to talk about, which is SB 13 and Bill 13.
Right.
That's a major concern to a lot of people here because I think I understand the spirit that law is meant to be, but if you look at the actual written language, I think it transfers some of the responsibility of your office into the federal law enforcement of the United States. It gives them the right to come in here where we don't want them, quite frankly.
Well, that's the big concern, is what are the unintended consequences, and certainly that is the concern. I will tell you, though, that this was really initiated several years ago with different federal agencies after 9/11, you know, and that was been the case. We call upon them to assist us, and their hands are tied to be able to even assist us when we need it. And that was really the spirit in which it was born. I'm anxious to see how this comes out with regards to the worry about the unintended consequences. I don't want the unintended consequences either. I don't have any belief that the Secret Service wants to do this, but there sure is a lot of people who believe they could.
There's a lot of people who do.
Yeah. And
Not just here. People
Right.
are talking about it all over the world.
Sure. And you know, I've read about it on the internet, a lot of the stuff that, I mean, most of it is you know, is not even true, some of the writings about it. The belief, though, and the worry about the unintended consequences, that's a perception that is reality that we all worry about. The good news is that I believe this state would take it away like that, you know, if that was to be the case. But maybe they wouldn't, you know.
Sometimes
David.
we take our way, it's too late.
Yeah.
The big question in my mind is whether or not that magazine ban is going to be enforced against the underlying fundamental and most basic rule of this, you know, this republic, which is the Constitution. That is the final law. That is the law that we understand and have sworn to uphold. And if we accept and go along with that sort of an arrest of a person with an overcapacity magazine, or for transferring it, then we are violating that fundamental law. So I guess I painted you in a corner purposefully, because I feel like this is so imperative for all of our freedoms. And if my question is, how do you react to that when those of us who will not accept this go in public and exchange magazines?
I told you, that's not my interest at all. I have no interest in dealing with that.
Well, my question is, are you going to arrest us or not?
No. The answer is no. Now, if you're out here dealing methamphetamine on the street, and that's the one thing that I can do to intervene, or you're planning something big and you're a dealer, that's when I have to really step back and take a different consideration, David. But no. But please don't. None of my deputies want to do that. Now, don't put us in the position, and like I said in the paper, and go out to the county fair and open up a booth and start selling 30-round magazines, you know? I just don't want to be in that position. Let's have some common sense about it, you know? Yeah. And then,
Sheriff, just a couple concerns that are pretty recent here. One I just came privy to probably last week, end of last week, was the SWAT team called out in Fruita for barricaded suspect. Were you guys involved?
yeah, there was something, I don't recall all the details, but yes.
Okay. So we've had a couple incidents. We had another situation with the State Highway Patrol basically violating Fourth Amendment rights. So there's some concern. I think.
Remember, I investigated that.
Okay. There's an overall concern of the overreach in that sense, and I think that's tagging on to the SB 13 situation. That's one of the areas of concern where the federal government can just walk into Mason County without your permission and start knocking on doors, another Ruby Ridge situation. That's a concern. It's happened before. We had a guy shot and killed from it here in town. Little old Grand Junction happened.
That wasn't the feds, though, that was the...
No, it was the Highway Patrol, but that's still, the point is, but we had a DA that couldn't even argue the Fourth Amendment. So you can see why people here, we've got to have somebody put the leash on and say, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
You know, and the only reason I brought up the fruit incident is we're going to break in these guys' windows with a guy drunk inside, passed out, and I think it was the owner of the property said $25,000 in damage, and it didn't even get the bad guy out.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that.
But you know, but that's the point is, from a SWAT situation isn't it wait let him dictate? You know?
There's
So, I mean,
not enough
it's just-
information there to really make that decision. You know, I don't know what the circumstances were. I will tell you this, though. In 1991 is when I built the SWAT team, when I started here. And our guiding thought has been, it's a big stick. Let's train hard. Let's not use it if we don't need to. There are many, many times that we go out on somebody who's barricaded and they're drunk and they're saying, you know, I'm going to kill somebody, whatever. We leave, you know, and we back away. You don't ever get to see those kinds of things. There are some times, though, where we do go in or committing, you know, they've committed something that is important, or we believe they have the potential to commit something else and put somebody else in danger, and we have to take some action. But we do balance exactly what you're talking about. And certainly, you know, we have to keep the Fourth Amendment at the top of our mind about what we're doing with all that, and make sure that we're legal.
Well, we need to have a DA that can defend it. We obviously had a hard time for that one.
Well, I know that he wanted to charge me. You know, he charged the first one,
Right.
and the jury acquitted the guy. And then it was based on that acquittal, he decided not to charge the second one. So, you know, I'm not sure exactly
You
what
can see the
the
concern it creates with.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the thing about the feds, too, let me just say this with regards to
the
them.
terrorist watch list when Obama's watching.
I'm not yet, apparently, because I can get on the airplane. So, I have tried to maintain a good relationship with our local feds here. And there's a real specific reason why I do that. And I think it's paid off, because when they come into town and they want to do something, they pick up the phone and they say, hey, Sheriff, this is what's going on. And I say, wait a minute, can we do it this way, whatever. I've had a lot of opportunities to really prevent what I think could have turned out wrong. Have we always got it right? No, never have. One thing that really angered me is when BLM came to town and executed a bunch of search warrants over resource violations that occurred in Utah. This has been several years back. We didn't get notified about that. And I bitched a major bitch about it, you know, and I think we've sort of overcome that, but there's new people now. We have to continue to do it. The FBI here in town was a local girl named Jane Quimby. How many of you know Jane Quimby and Quimby's family? Grew up here in Grand Junction. Her mom was a federal magistrate, you know. But we have good relationships with them to try to prevent those kinds of things from happening. And, you know, we don't, like I said, we're not perfect, but I believe we're doing a whole lot more than we ever probably tell you about to try to prevent exactly what you're worried about with them, you know?
Would you define good relationship?
Well, I just want to make sure that we're on a talking basis and that they know that if they're bringing resources here to do something, I want to know about it. And I meet with them pretty regular, so I know what they're up to, you know? Do I go to dinner with them and play softball with them? No. But I do want to stay in contact, because an adversarial relationship means you don't talk. And then, you know, they don't have any regard for calling me when they bring resources to town to do something, you know? That's why I like the ability for them to call me, and I want them to know that if they don't, that I'm going to be uptight about it, you know? And they do. They have been. They've been real good about that, for the most part. Not everybody. You know, I'm talking about mostly the Bureau. ATF's been a little bit of a challenge, to be honest with you, because they have a leadership issue. They don't have a great structure. For years, their main boss in this region was in Phoenix. And it's only been recently now that they have one in Denver that I get the opportunity to get to know and build a relationship with. And so there was always a little bit of, what's the ATF doing, you know? But I have a good relationship with the DEA, and we've solved a lot of good community problems with them. And they you know, the ATF was using their offices where I have people in as well, you know, working on drug cases. So we kind of backdoored it without having to go through their leadership. But some of these other groups that come and molest Harry and his crowd with the USDA, and, you know, all those people are the ones that we probably need to do better with. And Harry and I have been talking about that. And, you know, I certainly want, when they come out here and start trying to push Harry around, for him to call me. You know, I'll stand right in the middle of it.
Close some county roads out here too as well.
Yeah, now that's another thing that's a big problem. I hope you all are really engaging in that process. I know I am.
What authority do you have when they come in here and they're violating the Constitution? What can you do about it?
Well, I mean, the issue is what are they doing? And it's hard for me to just blanketly say, are they violating the Constitution? I have to really look at what they're doing. Is it a violation? Is it a violation of state law? Is it a violation of their own law? I have a good friend that lives in this county who has a FFL, and he does a lot of firearms training and does all kinds of things. And, you know, he had an ATF agent come to him once and said, look, you ordered these parts from a dealer back east, and you got this one part, and that dealer didn't cut that part correctly. It was the receiver of a machine gun, and we want it back. And there was no order, no nothing, you know. And I would have loved to have been involved in that. And he came to me after the fact, told me about it, and I would have loved to have stood in the middle of those two and say, show me your order, show me your court order, show me probable cause, show me something that makes you think you have the right to do that. And if nothing else, I'd have made them go try to do it legally, and if they couldn't get it done, then we would have protected the part. But, you know, he didn't want to do that, and frankly, you know, he says, look, the last thing I need is heat from the ATF, I got all this other stuff, you know, and so he, you know, but that's what I told Harry. If they come out and start trying to push Harry around, I want to be there, and he's willing to call me, and I'm willing to do everything I can to try to protect Harry and make sure these people are doing what they're supposed to be doing right.
A lot of times they abuse their power, they use intimidation under authority.
Right, and that, you know, I hate it when my people intimidate people, and it happens at the local level, and it pisses me off, you know, and so we do a lot to try to keep that kind of stuff from happening at all levels.
Okay, so under HB 13013, this new Secret Service agent is walking down the street and sees me and my buddy Paul, a very Crown magazine, decides he's going to arrest both of us. What's going to happen? He said, I mean, this law, all he has to do is witness it now, and he has the authority to arrest.
Well,
This is
Basically, are you going to step in, are you going to protect us?
yeah, I would absolutely step in, and I'd say, look, you're not going to do that. I don't want any part of you doing that in our community. Please leave and go do what you're supposed to be doing, investigate counterfeit funds and that kind of stuff. And the good news is I believe your DA would say, I'm not interested in that either. We're getting long on time. I know we have a couple more other questions over here. And then Jason, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting.
I live up in Colburn, so I don't really know what goes on with grand judge and politics. But you, as the county sheriff, don't have any authority over the grand judge and police department.
No, I don't have authority over them. I have authority in their jurisdiction.
Well, how does the grand judge and police department feel about magazine ban and other cities in your county?
I'm glad that you brought that up.
All the local
This is a really, I almost forgot that. I'm really glad you brought that up. So you know that the media had said that the Colorado Chiefs Association, you know, supports this gun legislation. What we have found out is informally, by talking to all of our chiefs, John Camper has said, "Great letter, Sheriff. I wish I could say that." And Mark Angelo down in Fruit is the same. We just got the new chief here in Palisades, so I don't really know where his stance is. But what we're finding all across the state is our chiefs in our areas outside the Denver metro area are saying, I wish I could say what you're saying.
Then why can't they? Why won't they?
This is the difference. And then I find this fascinating, and I've talked about it before, is that their whole governance structure is different.
Chief afraid of the city council?
The chief works for a city manager, and a city manager works for the council. And chiefs will tell you this. Now, I don't want to get sideways with my chiefs, so please don't represent that I'm up here trying to throw them under the bus, because I do a lot of good work with them. But what they probably won't tell you publicly is on most issues, chiefs have to be issued their opinion by their city manager and their city council. All right? What I find very fascinating is that on this gun issue, they didn't, and it's only the big city chiefs, okay? It's Chief Dan Oates in Aurora, who I've worked with. He's a dynamic leader, but he went through that Aurora tragedy, and I think he's really touched by that, you know, and he's not even from Colorado. He started out in New York, and then went to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Ann Arbor, Michigan, and then to Colorado, and he wants to go to another bigger place. What I believe is occurring there is that the Chiefs of Police Association is dominated by a few big city chiefs, and the rest of these